Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of those videos where I talk about updates on Dwarf Fortress coming from Toady1 and KitFox. We have another Tarn speaking Tarn time for spring 2026, where Tarn talks to the camera about the game for a little bit. In that video he announces a current patch, which is out right now and you can go play, as well as teases some magic-related things that are coming up, an actual crossover with Magic the Gathering, and Dinosaurs. One of those things wasn't on my bingo card for the year. You guess which. Let's dive in. First up are the patch notes for version 53.12. On their surface, these may be very straightforward, simple changes, but a lot of them are going to have pretty major impacts on the playability of the game. And it makes it very clear that a lot of feedback that has been bubbling up over the past years has really been taken into heart with this one, and is going to make the playability of the game a lot more pleasant. First up, there is now a display which shows the accepted petition and building projects for guild halls and temples. On top of that, if you open the standing orders screen, you can now enable and disable global settings to allow dwarves to dig through damp stone or warm stone, meaning if you're digging around lava or water and just want to allow your dwarves to dig through it regardless, you can now enable it in the standing orders screen. Although be a little bit cautious when digging through aquifers still, because you'll still likely flood your stairwells. When you click on the disband icon for your squads, it now gives you a question mark asking if you want to confirm and destroy the squad. It also now looks like a trash bin instead of a red X button, which I think is also a huge improvement. And the confirm to delete squad is maybe my favorite change out of this entire patch. Items now suffer less damage from age, and worn items wear down more slowly, meaning you probably won't need to replace clothing as frequently, and this should lower the amount of damaged clothing scattered about the fortress. But more testing will need to happen to find out how effective this change actually is. Traders will now bring clothing properly sized for fortress citizens. I need to test this to see again how effective it is, but I'm excited to see what varieties of clothing they will bring for specific citizen members. They've added tooltips showing what materials different workshops require, which is huge. If you hover over a workshop building icon, it'll say what needs to be brought over for that item to be completed. This is going to be a very handy learning tool for new players, but for people like me, it's just nice to have. They've changed how bins work when you're trading, so you can now select specific units and items inside of bins, and the whole process is so much more straightforward now. You no longer need to click specifically on the little checkmark box to add items to be traded in the trading menu. You can just simply click on the text. There is now a select all button when you're moving items to the trading menu. Apparently, squad soldiers will remove their shoes now if they're told to put on boots, rather than having to make them replace all of their clothing with armor. And the work orders screen has had a little bit of a rework. Things are a little bit more convenient, and now you can click on the name of the work order, or the numbers themselves in order to change them without having to click the little pluses and minuses. Very handy. And as lovely as the rest of the features are, they're all pretty small, so I won't bother reading through them all. I'll simply leave them on the screen as I continue talking. They've cleaned up quite a few things, scroll bars, and various clarity pieces around the rest of the fortress, alongside of the guild hall UI and meeting UIs and location assignments UIs that have needed a nice little touch-up for a minute. I'm sure that you will spot many of these little changes as you play the game over the next few weeks. All in all, I think this is a solid little patch, and it's the sort of thing that I love to see frequently. So far this year, they've seemingly popped up once every other month, which is a little slower than I would like, but is still nice to have. Monthly patches are about what I would like as an ideal, and these kinds of small, slow, consistent changes for quality of life is what the game needs to move forward in a positive direction. The next thing that Tarn announced in his little video was a crossover with Magic the Gathering. This is way beyond me. I'm not personally into Magic the Gathering at all, and it's going to be a secret lair drop, so if you want to go pre-order them as a pack, you can do that. Personally, I kinda don't care. I'm glad that it's happening, and I'm sure some people are very excited. It's just not in my world in the slightest, and something I kind of want to avoid and don't feel like lining up to pre-order. That being said, it is cool to see Tarn excited about something because this is a property and a card game that he really likes. So I'm glad that Tarn's happy about it, and I hope that the people who are interested in stuff like this are excited to go out and purchase it. I see this as similar to the records getting pressed of the soundtrack. That's something that I personally care about because that's a hobby that I take part in, but this is a little bit outside of my world. Are you interested in these? Are you going to try and purchase them? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. Magic. And I'll let Tarn explain the basics himself.
Meanwhile, we've also been working on the next major update. Artist Jacob has prepared some hundreds of procedural layers that we can meld together into all sorts of eclectic magical workshops to support the procedurally generated magic systems of our fantasy worlds that you'll be researching in your fortress. Whether the magical research involves alchemy, herbs, raw energy, runes, mechanisms, bones, sacrifice, or just plain old books and scrolls, we have it covered. We've also been working on the thousands of years of magical history leading up to play in the new era mode of world generation, so we can have deeper, older, more magical ruins for your dwarves to dig up and explore.
Right off the bat, I have to state the obvious. These magical workshops look awesome, especially with their little animations that I'm not going to bother capturing in these screenshots. But I love the aesthetic of them, and I like the little procedural nature of them. And it makes me wonder if we'll see some sort of procedural nature working their way into the older workshops at some point in the future, although that would make them harder to discern from one workshop to another. For many of us, magic and myths and magic has just been a thing that Tarn has talked about for so long that it's almost hard to believe that it's real. I'd even forgotten all about a lot of the promises that Tarn had made for magic when I went back to research my video about myths and magic, which I will link in the description of this video. The thumbnail should be on screen right now. Essentially, it's giving world generation context, creating creation myths for the world that would allow for magic to be generated in similar ways to the procedural systems the game already has. The game already has procedurally generated creatures for the necromancer experiments, the randomly generated demons in the underworld, and monsters in the form of forgotten beast encounters. And don't forget the titans, or the night trolls for that matter. But this is a procedural system that will allow for different kinds of interactions, based on what we know to exist. Of course, this is only a small tease, and a long shot away from actually showing what it will look like in-game. But at the very least, I can confidently say that Myths and Magic is coming, and it will be out sometime this year. And this is our very first taste of it. And honestly, I'm excited. But there is still a lot of unknowns, and I want to see what that magic itself looks like when the dwarves are participating in spellcasting. And if they have the ability to launch any kind of fireball, I really hope that it doesn't create any smoke. Maybe make it a magic fire like the dragons. Because if it does create smoke, that sounds like a very fast way to send your frame rate to 0 the second the wizard gets pissed off in the tavern. Or maybe that's just comedy. I also have to mention the ruins. The ruins are something that I really want to see in Fortress mode and Adventure mode. Hopefully this thing that he's mentioning leads to more variation or things that we can find when digging down into the ground, and also provide more content for the much starved Adventure mode, and perhaps we can live out our Indiana Jones fantasy and discover artifacts from times long past so that we can, of course, put them in a museum. I mean, what else would you do with them? The last thing that Tarn announced in his video was a total surprise to me, and seemingly everybody in my chat as well. We're getting dinosaurs in Dwarf Fortress, as well as other prehistoric creatures. Apparently the list of animals is quite long, and Tarn seems very excited about it. After his announcement concluded, we then got an appearance from Gus, one of the cats that Tarn now lives with. And of course I have to mention that his full proper name is Governor Gustafur Cromcrom Adams. Pleasant to meet you, cat. So that brings us to the end of this video. Patch notes, dinosaurs, magic, and Magic the Gathering. Not a sentence that I thought I would say this year. If you haven't yet, I do recommend watching my video on magic, because I think it might give you some historic context and some idea of what we might be able to expect from this. And I look forward to reading all of your thoughts in the comments, because, oh my god, there's a lot happening now. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.